Discover the incredible secrets of Earth's hidden Archean Eon. Transformative insights revealed. Tom Harris clutched the steaming coffee cup, frustration swirling within him as he attempted to grade the same tedious essays on photosynthesis. Each bland interpretation from students felt like another stab in a heart long accustomed to indifference. As a high school biology teacher in Willow Creek, he felt trapped in a fading profession where flashy accolades overshadowed the genuine pursuit of knowledge. Willing himself to focus, he couldn't shake the feeling of being a ghost, drifting through life a mere cog in an educational machine. Outside, the world bustled past the cafe's frosted windows, blissfully unaware of his plight. Then she entered a whirlwind of energy. Dr. Lydia Marks, a geology professor with wild curls cascading around her face, immediately hijacked Tom's attention. She exuded warmth and vitality. The two exchanged pleasantries, and as they slipped into easy conversation over coffee, she spoke of the Archean Eon. Her enthusiasm kindled something inside him. He was invigorated by her passion for a realm of history where the earth itself was taking form. This era was born of chaos but also of creation, secrets lying dormant beneath centuries of crust. Tom felt a jolt of nostalgia. He longed to rediscover the eager curiosity of his youth, once nurtured by family stories, but now dulled by the confines of a stagnant existence. Lydia's tales ignited a flicker of excitement, an impulse he couldn't quite articulate. A partnership arose in the ebbs of that conversation. They could explore the narratives of ancient life together, penning their discoveries like modern-day explorers. Yet, fear gnawed at him, insecurities clinging tight. Who was he to venture into such grand pursuits? Before he could completely rationalize his doubts, Lydia's voice pierced his whirlwind of thoughts. "Let's catalog the hidden wonders of the Archean Eon together," she proposed, her eyes sparkling with possibilities. Tom hesitated, envisioning what it would mean: collaboration, research, credibility. Yet, a deeper question lurked beneath. What if he wasn't good enough, that all he was doing was reaching for a dream that would shatter in his hands? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they dug deeper into research, Tom unearthed family ties that he had long overlooked. Old letters revealed that his grandfather once held esteem in geology, a man who cherished knowledge and inheritance. The pressure intensified within him, the sacred flame of expectation now ignited. Could he honor that legacy while standing firm against the constraints of corporate interests that later sought their discoveries? Discussions of partnership, of financial security, loomed ominously ahead. The thought of choosing between ambition and loyalty to his roots tightened around his throat, shrouding him in anguish. Tom felt trapped, caught between a world that had long deemed him insignificant and the surprising camaraderie he'd found with Lydia. Echoes of self-doubt flooded his mind. Was it too late to reclaim his destiny? The gnawing weight of indecision spread through him. Would he stand firm against the allure of a life wrapped in comfort? Or was he destined to remain overlooked and unnoticed? As doubts twisted deeper, the whispers of corporate greed neared, leaving him teetering on the brink of chaos. The next days became a whirlwind of organization and urgency for Tom. Each time he glanced at the stacks of essays awaiting his attention, he couldn't help but think about the depth of knowledge he could be exploring instead. Grading had become an exercise in endurance, a way to pass the time. But that time was slipping away, now tainted by a burgeoning desire to break free from his mundane routine. With every interaction he had with Lydia, Tom felt himself awakening. The simplicity of their shared passion laid bare a realm of possibilities that he had long dared not explore. She introduced him to intricate geological diagrams, imbued with the intricacies of Earth formations, sparking that familiar yearning in him. Each moment spent in the library poring over research papers felt like a step away from his ghostly existence, a tangible movement toward reasserting his place in a world he had long ignored. Lydia had become more than a collaborator. She was his catalyst, forcing him to confront both his ambition and his fears. Their exchanges morphed into vibrant discussions, marked by laughter as they dissected theories of ancient habitats and the resilience of life itself. Tom was entranced, yet lingering unresolved questions haunted his mind. Would pursuing this path risk pulling him deeper into an abyss of disappointment? The thought of returning to his classroom felt heavier than before. The prospects of stagnation loomed behind him like a specter. His heart raced at the thought of failure, the tenacious grip of his past taunting him. The inertia of unwillingness tightened around him, but for the first time in years, a kind of rebellion sparked within. After one particularly invigorating session studying rock samples together, Tom steeled himself. He plunged headlong into a conversation. "Lydia, what if we went beyond academic displays? What if we presented our findings in a way that reaches the public? We could inspire so many students to look beyond conventional learning." His voice trembled with earnestness, a tremor of fear edged with excitement. Lydia's joy radiated from her. "Exactly. We could hold workshops, invite local schools, share our findings through interactive presentations. Knowledge isn't just for classrooms. It should ignite curiosity." This notion of connecting with the community fueled something within Tom. However, looming shadows of uncertainty reminded him that he had never stepped beyond textbooks and prepared lectures. Could he really break through the restrictive molds that had shaped him for years? Days transformed into weeks, and Tom forged ahead, dedicating after-hours to research. He found himself waking earlier, the thrill of anticipation overshadowing protests from within. The thought of approaching the school administration to propose a program, of breaking free from rote teaching and engaging students in real-world science, tightened his gut. This was the friction he needed, pushing against the familiarity of his traditional role. Yet self-doubt gnawed at him, a persistent whisper feigning logic. What if the administration rejected his proposal? What if his students didn't respond? As mind constructs continued to spin out of control, Tom pushed them back into the recesses of his mind. He decided he could no longer mimic an invisible presence. He needed to stake his claim one way or another. Tom's resolve culminated when he crafted a proposal during a particularly restless night. The feverish writing came with both clarity and fear, pressing him to submit. What awaited him in the daylight? On the morning of his presentation to the faculty, the stark reality loomed ahead. The sun painted the empty halls in a hue of optimism, yet Tom's heart thudded against his ribs like the pounding of ancient geological forces unearthing truth. Could he, the hesitant teacher, really stand at the forefront of transformation? The same energy steering his journey with Lydia coursed through him, the power of knowledge breaking through restraints. But deep within, a question rooted itself: what if the greater challenge awaited him not in the room of professional peers, but rather in confronting the corporate interests eager to snuff out their work? Clutching his proposal and feeling the weight of uncertainty, Tom walked into the faculty meeting, unsure of which battle he was actually about to face. As Tom entered the faculty meeting room, a sense of urgency washed over him, akin to standing at the edge of an uncharted abyss. The murmurs of conversation surrounding him blurred into a dull roar as he focused inward, desperately summoning the confidence he needed to present his proposal. This was not merely a presentation. It was a pivotal moment in which he could redefine not just his career, but also his very identity as an educator. He took his seat at the long table, positioning his proposal in front of him like a shield. There was a flutter in his stomach, an unsettling cocktail of anxiety and excitement. He glanced around the room at his colleagues, their faces a mix of indifference and curiosity. How could he convey the fire ignited within him in a way that would resonate? His eyes darted back to the papers on the table, scribbled notes that now felt inadequate. The principal, Ms. Hayes, began the meeting with standard announcements, each word a reminder of the comfort zone Tom had inhabited for too long. As the agenda progressed, the same routine topics droned on, and he felt the weight of his hesitation thickening the air around him. It would be easy to let the current wash over him, to slip back into the comfortable role of the passive observer. Easy, but retreating wasn't why he was here. When the time came for faculty members to share updates on their individual projects, his heart raced as familiar names floated into the ether, their accomplishments painting vivid pictures of achievement. With each positive self-promotion, the comparison reminded him of how stagnant he had become. That uninvited voice of self-doubt returned, whispering insidiously, "What do you really have to offer? Are these mere fantasies?" Yet as he clenched his hands around the edges of the proposal, it struck him. This project wasn't merely his own venture. It was a chance to strip away complacency, to challenge the system that had long confined him. It was time to embrace the reality of growth, personal and professional, and maintain his determination against whatever came next. Finally, it was his turn. Tom stood up, drawing in a breath as a wave of resolve surged through him. "I want to present an initiative that fosters a deeper appreciation for geology among our students and the community." His voice trembled initially but steadied as he glanced at Lydia in the audience, her encouraging nod anchoring him. He detailed his vision: engaging workshops, interactive presentations, and hands-on fieldwork that demystified the complexity of geological processes. As he spoke, he saw the flickers of interest on some faces and the hard skepticism in others. It was a dance of reactions, a spectrum of doubt and hope. As he wrapped up his presentation, an unexpected tension began to pool around the room. Questions from faculty bombarded him, ranging from logistical concerns to academic validity. Each one triggered a ripple of defensiveness within him, but he fought against it, harnessing the passion Lydia had ignited. He countered their doubts with confidence, articulating the transformative potential his initiative promised. Then, amid the inquiries, he saw Mr. Thompson, the school board member known for his stringent views on curriculum funding. "And what makes you think we can find the resources to support such an endeavor?" His dismissive tone was cold, void of the spirit necessary for growth. Tom's pulse quickened, the stakes amplifying in an instant. He recognized now that he wasn't simply battling the barriers of his own fears. He was confronting the very landscape of institutional indifference. Because it's time our education reflects real-world applications, not just standardized tests, he countered boldly, defiance creeping into his stance. The room fell silent, tension electrifying the air. The moment crystallized. Tom caught a glimpse of the possibilities that lay beyond the confines of the meeting room, not just for himself, but for the very direction of educational engagement. As he returned to his seat, he couldn't help but feel he had crossed a threshold. The reflection in their skeptical eyes hinted at potential, yet still, an unresolved challenge lingered. The fire still burned within him, but he was now acutely aware that the struggle was far from over. Would the administration's corporate affiliations threaten the authenticity of his vision? As Tom sat back, heart racing, he realized not only had he faced the first barrier, but the implications of success loomed menacingly ahead. What awaited him next was more profound than either he or Lydia could have anticipated. The following days at school felt like a pressure cooker, with each interaction simmering beneath the surface. Tom's earlier determination to spark change morphed into a restless energy, fueling every action he took within the confines of the classroom. Students buzzed with excitement about the project, their eagerness a flame illuminating his path forward. Yet, Tom was haunted by the specter of skepticism that lurked in the meeting room. As he graded assignments late into the night, Tom couldn't shake the questions that hung in the air. Did the board truly understand the worth of experiential learning? Was he ready to challenge the established norms of education single-handedly? Each red mark he placed on a paper felt like a reminder of a missed opportunity, a reflection of a system that often overlooked the importance of passion. Over the weekend, he gathered his notes and ideas, refining his proposal until it could no longer be confined to mere words on paper. He envisioned monthly workshops where students could rope in the community for geowalks, dissecting rock layers that paved their hometown history. He planned for educators from nearby districts to collaborate and share expertise, a network of support around his initiative. But doubt still gnawed at him. The faculty's skepticism had shifted into a quicksand of uncertainty. The ground felt ever so shaky beneath him. Tom spent countless hours researching funding options, crafting emails filled with persuasive rhetoric, and seeking partnerships with local organizations that had previously funded educational initiatives. This wasn't just about winning approval, it was about rallying a movement of sorts, about shifting mindsets. By Monday, a surge of motivation propelled him forward. Ignoring the lingering anxiety, he filled his classroom with diverse resources banners, geological maps, and colorful rock samples, transforming it into a vibrant learning hub. The sight of it invigorated him. The students' engaged faces were all the affirmation he needed. Yet, there remained an unsettling undercurrent, a feeling that acceptance wouldn't come easy. At lunchtime, he caught a moment with Lydia. Their conversations had shifted recently. Her always resolute demeanor subtly mirrored his own internal transformation. "You know, Tom," she said thoughtfully, "the hesitance you sensed in that meeting is often a fear of change. You're not just battling opposition. You're pushing against an entire legacy of tradition. That's no small feat." Her words resonated deeply, illuminating the invisible chains that tied many of his colleagues to outdated methodologies. "But what if I fail? What if I can't convince them that this is the right step?" His voice carried a weight of vulnerability, a crack in his persistent facade. "The fear of failure can be paralyzing," she replied, her eyes earnest. "But think about why you're doing this. You're not after accolades. You seek to enrich student lives. That passion translates." With his next presentation on the horizon, Tom felt the urgency to refocus. After school, he left the chaos of the classroom behind and headed to a local museum that specialized in geology. Walking through the exhibits, surrounded by the grandeur of Earth's timeline, inspiration sparked anew. Each display spoke of resilience and evolution, the very essence of education. Back at his desk, Tom rolled out a new plan, integrating elements from the museum's displays into his proposal. Yet, despite his excitement, the resistance he anticipated still loomed in his mind. Would Mr. Thompson's criticisms resurface, gnarled and prepared to sink their teeth into his vision? Or would he find allies among the faculty, individuals willing to embrace transformation? Caught in this swirling storm of ambition, Tom steadied himself for the next committee meeting, aware that he stood not just for a new program, but for a renaissance in how education could shape young minds. The countdown had begun. He would have to confront the heart of the institution, his resolute intention fueled by both hope and trepidation. As he wrapped up his notes, a new thought flickered in his mind about a strategic angle that could leverage past failures into powerful momentum. What if he could decrease skepticism by sharing personal failures, the relational aspects of educating, and showcasing his commitment to improvement as he navigated this path? The time had come to face the very foundations of the school's culture, and Tom knew this was just the beginning of an intensifying battle for educational authenticity. Each breath he took was a preparation for the ultimate confrontation ahead. With that apprehension settled deep within him, he opened his heart to the possibility that change, once daunting, could also lead to extraordinary new beginnings. The committee room felt tighter than ever as Tom entered for the meeting, a crucible of daunting expectations and palpable tension. He could sense the weight of the chairs, an unyielding presence that anchored the skepticism of the faculty members seated around the table. Each familiar face seemed to act as a guard, defending the status quo with silent, yet potent resolve. Moments before his presentation, Tom took a deep breath, yearning to collect the swirling thoughts and fears that battled within him. When he began speaking, his voice wavered slightly, betraying the whirlpool of emotions surging beneath his professional exterior. He shared his vision with fervor, how experiential learning could ignite a passion for geology among students, how they could become active participants in their own education through hands-on experiences outside traditional classrooms. The way he painted the pictures of geo-walks and community engagement, Tom felt that small spark of hope flicker among baying doubts. Then came the questions, probing and insistent. Mr. Thompson, with his bravado, was the first to strike. "But Tom, how do you plan to measure success? Can you guarantee that this won't divert attention from core subjects?" We have standards to uphold. Each word dripped with the familiar tone of challenge, and Tom felt the tendrils of self-doubt creep up again. It was precisely the moment he had prepared for, yet a part of him floundered, mired in uncertainty. Suddenly, the notion of failure became a live wire sparking in his mind. But just as he faltered, he recognized the purpose behind his initiative, the passion he wanted to carry forth into the hearts of his students. "I understand the concerns," he responded, his voice steadier now, "but the reality is, students learn differently. Not everyone thrives in a conventional environment. By introducing real-world experiences, I believe engagement will enhance their understanding and retention of the material." "Isn't that the goal?" The room sat in a heavy silence, the severity of his commitment hanging in the air like an unanswered question. He sensed a shift, though. Lydia's nod of support across the table caught his eye, serving as a beacon amidst the headwinds of doubt. A thought crystallized in him: he could indeed reveal his own vulnerabilities, his educational missteps, as a testament to learning through failure. "Allow me to share a personal experience," Tom continued, drawing from a time when he felt painfully ineffective as a teacher. "There was a unit I implemented last year where I had high hopes but left some students disengaged and confused. By reflecting on that, I've learned what it means to adapt and listen to my students' needs, and that's the essence of what this proposal aims to do. We can enrich their lives by acknowledging both successes and failures together." As he spoke, he noted some faces softening, curiosity replacing aversion. Instead of viewing him as a threat trying to push an agenda, perhaps they could see him as a candidate to advocate for collaboration. Yet, amidst that modest breakthrough, the shadows of indifference lingered at the edges. Challenges would remain. The room's stillness weighed on him heavily, pressing on his hope as the committee members exchanged glances. "Tom," a soft voice broke through the tension. Mrs. Yates, usually reserved, leaned forward with interest. "What kind of resources will you need to implement this? Are you prepared to commit to adapting your curriculum significantly?" He seized this opportunity, articulating a specific plan for local partnerships, suggested funding sources, and an outline on how to weave in the core subject pillars he knew they valued. Each word was a step towards solidifying trust, revealing his determination and capacity to grow within the role. But with the end of his presentation came the unshakable breath of uncertainty. Even if the committee embraced aspects of his vision, could his passion withstand the undercurrents of tradition? As he exited the meeting room, the ebb of cautious optimism infused him, with an invigorated will to persuade. Each day was now a balancing act, poised between risk and reward. Tom knew that confrontations with misunderstandings would surface again, but they wouldn't deter him. Clinging to the notion that genuine transformation requires resilience, he made his way into the afternoon sun, shaking off the lingering doubts. Without success guarantees laid before him, the real challenge loomed: how to cultivate a shared sense of ownership in those reluctant minds. As he approached his classroom, Tom realized the confrontation wasn't over. It was the first wave in a sea of struggles yet to come. He resolved to harness every avenue to forge connections, bold enough to confront the structural barriers as they appeared. The question now loomed: what strategies would he adopt next to galvanize his colleagues' support and overcome the institutional resistance? Tom stepped into his classroom, each footfall echoing a low thrum of determination in his mind. The familiar surroundings felt different, vibrant with possibility yet heavy with expectation. He sensed an undercurrent of urgency driving him forward. Immediately, he was struck by the sight of his students settling into their desks, a mix of curiosity and indifference upon their faces, like a blank canvas eagerly awaiting vivid strokes of inspiration. Glancing at the whiteboard, overflowing with ideas from his early lessons, Tom felt an unshakable resolve to elevate their learning experience. Yet, the looming questions from the committee echoed in his head like ghosts of the past. How could he convince not just the faculty, but also his students of this new vision? He made a conscious effort to shed the weight of his performance anxiety. Today wasn't just about him. It was about them. "All right, everyone, I want to try something new today," Tom announced, filling his voice with enthusiasm. A few eyebrows raised, and one student, Anna, leaned forward with a hint of intrigue. "Today we are going out. We'll explore the geology of our local area and use that knowledge for our next project." The sudden silence that engulfed the room spoke volumes. Some students exchanged glances, while others frowned, grappling with the unexpected shift. Doubt crept into Tom's heart for a fleeting moment. Could this tentative step towards experiential learning have been too ambitious too soon? But Anna broke through the tension, her smile illuminating her face as she whispered to her friend, "That sounds awesome." Beneath the surface, Tom felt a mixture of fear and eagerness. That flicker of recognition from Anna fueled his resolve. He couldn't allow his self-doubt to determine the outcome. As he explained the day's plan, his excitement became palpable, pulling in even skeptical faces. "Let us see how geology shapes our world beyond textbooks. You'll take notes, sketch your observations, and when we return, we'll reflect on how these experiences connect to what we've learned in the classroom." Each word felt like an anchor, grounding him in purpose. As they packed up their bags and prepared to leave, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that a small victory was brewing. Yet, he also recognized his own internal struggle, the fear of pushback that lingered in the fringes of his mind. There had been countless conversations with fellow faculty members, nearly all riddled with hesitation over efforts to depart from tradition. But this reversal of roles, becoming a facilitator instead of a classic authority figure, could dismantle those walls. The field trip itself became a living laboratory. As they strolled through the lush greenery, Tom watched his students interact with the earth beneath their feet. Questions flew through the air like soft breezes, and he found himself encouraging them to explore freely, to satisfy their curiosities. Engaging in open discussions using real-life examples allowed the information to breathe, shifting from mere theory to tangible experience. Yet even within moments of joy and discovery, a subtle tension tugged at him. During the hike back, Tom overheard snippets of conversation from some of the more traditional-minded students, expressing doubts about the missed curriculum time. He felt a weight settle on his chest, the gnawing thought. Would this day reinforce the very arguments against his proposal? Refusing to surrender to discouragement, Tom vowed to weave these experiences back into their curriculum seamlessly. This resolve ignited a plan. When they returned to class, he would dedicate time to cracking open their perceptions about learning and adapting their lessons to reflect their newfound insights. The class ended with students buzzing over their experience. As they filed out, Anna lingered. "When can we go out again? I actually learned a lot," she said, conviction illuminating her tone. In that moment, a clear realization washed over him. Perhaps this was how he would turn doubts into discussions. Maybe each student, each voice that thrived on curiosity could be his ally in this campaign for experiential learning. As the classroom emptied, Tom stood for a moment, lost in thought. He felt layers of uncertainty peeling away, replaced with a growing determination to confront resistance both from faculty and students alike. Yet one poignant question bubbled to the surface: how could he harness this initial energy to navigate the deeper waters of institutional norms? What strategies would he employ to sustain momentum as he transformed not just his students' learning, but his own resilience? This journey was far from over, and the real challenge awaited him just over the horizon. As the final students trickled out and the classroom door clicked shut, Tom was plunged into a moment of introspection. The air hung heavy with the remnants of excitement, but it was laced with apprehension. Would enthusiasm alone be enough to effect lasting change within his classroom and beyond? Each pulse of uncertainty echoed louder in his mind, sharpening his focus on the path ahead. In the days that followed, Tom took advantage of the momentum sparked during the field trip. He made it his mission to incorporate real-world applications into the curriculum. He stayed late after school, poring over lesson plans, seeking innovative ways to interweave their experiences with the required learning objectives. The thrill of development surged within him. It was exhilarating yet daunting to step into uncharted territory. But the challenges began to surface sooner than expected. During the next faculty meeting, Tom presented his idea of experiential learning, his vision of engaging students beyond traditional methodologies. He watched as expressions of skepticism cascaded across the room. Familiar faces contorted with doubt, arms crossed defensively. One veteran teacher, Ms. Carter, scoffed, "But what about the test scores? We can't compromise on academics for the sake of—" "What was it you called it? Exploration?" Her cutting words landed with a thud, reverberating through his self-assuredness. A chorus of agreement accompanied her statement. They discussed the importance of measurable results, enumerating the risks of untested experiments in teaching. Abruptly, his excitement felt like a flicker against a gale-force wind. How could he fend off the doubts creeping in, both from his colleagues and within himself? Despite the frigid response, a fire ignited within Tom. He realized this wasn't merely about gaining acceptance. It was about proving the power of experiential learning. He envisioned how he would directly confront his colleagues' distrust by collecting data from the very students who had thrived on that field trip. The next day, he handed out reflective journals for his students to document their thoughts, feelings, and learning outcomes from both the field trip and subsequent discussions. The results poured in, revealing a tapestry rich with insights: increase in engagement, a shift in perceptions about education, the blossoming of curiosity. Each entry resonated with a common theme. Students felt empowered and connected. Using this newfound data, Tom prepared a follow-up presentation for the faculty. He felt a mix of hope and dread as he gathered his notes. Would this evidence sway his colleagues? Could he unravel the tightly wound threads of their skepticism? As he stood before them, flipping through their reflections, the tension sat heavily on his shoulders. Yet, as he read snippets of their enthusiasm, he began to feel a sense of purpose swell. He was their advocate. This time he spoke with conviction, not just about experiential learning, but its correlation to creative thinking, problem-solving, and emotional growth. Each word struck like an arrow, looking to penetrate the rigid barriers that had overshadowed their conversations. When he concluded, silence enveloped the room, thick and contemplative. It was a stark contrast to the past discussions, filled with apprehension and critique. Then something unexpected happened. Anna, shy and reticent until then, stood up. "I think learning should be exciting," she declared, her voice cutting through the stillness. "It really helped me understand the world." Her support ignited a ripple effect as more students backed her, offering their own experiences and perspectives. As he left the meeting, buoyed by the moment of solidarity with his students, Tom felt a renewed sense of purpose. Yet lurking in the shadows of his exhilaration was the nagging question of how far he could push this new agenda without alienating his colleagues. What if he challenged the norms once again? What if he invited the faculty to join him on a field trip, participating in the very experience he was trying to implement? The fear of rejection lingered, but beneath it lay a flicker of excitement. Would they step into the learning landscape he envisioned, or would they retreat to the safety of convention? Determined to set the stage for change, Tom mapped out his approach, eager to confront any remaining doubts head-on. The next step would be the true test of his resolve, and with it, the possibility of transforming not just his classroom, but the entire educational philosophy of his department. As he sat down to finalize details, he knew one thing: the moment to act had arrived. How would he navigate the inevitable resistance? Would he emerge stronger, or shatter under pressure? Tom's mind was a whirlwind as he toyed with the idea of inviting his colleagues on a field trip. Would they see the value in experiential learning, or was he setting himself up for further ridicule? The seed of doubt mingled with his determination, creating a mental tug-of-war. He had experienced their skepticism firsthand. Could he really lead them into the very realm he was pushing for? He decided to present the idea to his trusted friend and fellow teacher, Sarah. Her experience and understanding of the faculty's dynamics offered a compass for navigating the rough seas ahead. They met in the small, cluttered faculty lounge, surrounded by the remnants of half-empty coffee mugs and an air of collective cynicism. "Tom, I admire your passion," she started, leaning back in her chair and crossing her arms. "But have you thought this through? You know how set they are on their methods." A slow burn ignited within Tom. "That's exactly why I want to challenge them. They've become complacent, Sarah. We all have. Education isn't a static entity. It needs to adapt. He leaned forward, glancing at the door, as if the faculty members' ears might be pressed against it, listening. If they can't experience it themselves, how can they understand its effectiveness? True, but you're risking a lot here, she cautioned. You could lose support. Some of them won't take kindly to being asked to step out of their comfort zones. He anticipated her hesitance, but instead of wavering, he felt an urge to push through the discomfort. He can't back down now. The students' insights have opened my eyes to the real power of education. It isn't just about keeping test scores up. It's about inspiring growth. I just want you to be careful, she replied, wincing as she sifted through her stacks of untouched paperwork. The essence of their conversation lingered in Tom's mind long after he returned to his classroom. He began to envision what this field trip might look like. An interactive day filled with problem-solving challenges, discussions that forced his colleagues to confront their preconceived notions, and opportunities for them to engage with students in ways they had never imagined. Each idea fueled the fire within him, illuminating pathways through his uncertainties. But doubt clawed at the edges of his resolve. Was he really ready to risk his career for this experimental approach? He gazed out of the window, watching students walk to their buses, laughing and chatting animatedly about their day, each of them embodying the enthusiasm he craved for his colleagues to share. Were they willing to meet him halfway? After deliberating through restless nights, Tom finally crafted an email to the faculty that laid out his proposal. He emphasized the potential benefits of the experience, spotlighting student engagement as a crucial factor in their success. As he pressed send, a wave of anxiety washed over him. Would he be met with silence, or worse, a cascade of derision? Days crept by, each moment filled with a lingering anticipation that gnawed at his nerves. When the responses came in, he braced himself. To his surprise, they were mostly supportive. Many expressed curiosity, while others acknowledged that if it could genuinely enhance their teaching, they were willing to try it. Yet not everyone was on board. In a stinging reply, Ms. Carter outright dismissed the idea, arguing that time spent away from the classroom was time lost from vital curriculum delivery. Tom's heart sank, but rather than retreating, he felt a surge of defiance. Her priorities represented everything he wished to challenge. His passion for this direction clashed against the institutional rigidity that stifled creativity. As the day of the field trip approached, Tom reflected on the irony of it all. He had embarked on this journey to inspire change by rooting himself in the practical. Now, his hands trembled at the thought of potentially facing a mutiny. Did he forge ahead with his vision, even at the risk of deeper divides, or pull back and seek a safer route? The clock ticked down to the day of reckoning. Would his colleagues arrive ready to explore the unknown, or would they turn back into the shadows of traditionalism? The stakes had never felt higher. The morning of the field trip dawned, shrouded in a fog that clung to the ground like uncertainty wrapped around Tom's heart. He arrived at school early, the usual cacophony of noise muted by the anticipation hanging in the air. Solely about the field trip, but about forging his identity within a fractured faculty. The moment of truth loomed closer than ever, and he had yet to answer whether he could turn this moment into a defining chapter of his career. Would the risk lead to greater understanding, or would he fail in the face of declining support? And so, the day hung in delicate balance. The culmination of his hopes and the genesis of a newfound identity depended on how he chose to respond. In the aftermath of Ms. Carter's challenge, Tom felt the atmosphere shift, charged with anticipation. The moment demanded not just a response, but a pivotal choice about who he truly wanted to become as an educator. Steeling his resolve, he took a slow breath, facing the mirrored skepticism that enveloped his colleagues. Ms. Carter, I appreciate your candor, Tom began, allowing the sincerity in his tone to resonate. I know this process is unorthodox, and stepping away from the conventional path can feel threatening. But this, he gestured broadly, encompassing the vibrant chaos of the garden blossom around them, is about creating connections, not just between students and subjects, but between educators and the realities of learning. His colleagues appeared apprehensive, caught between their entrenched beliefs and the new dynamics unfolding before them. He continued, if we focus only on what we think should work, we limit ourselves and, more importantly, limit our students. This isn't just about time management. It's about how we redefine what education can mean in a rapidly changing world. The murmurs of discontent softened as curiosity sparked among the group. He could feel the tide shifting, each word a building block toward his newfound assertion. The words flowed. He iterated on their shared mission to ignite curiosity in students, ensuring that education remained relevant and engaging. I invite you, he urged, to experience the lessons we teach through your own hands, to challenge the boundaries we impose. Let us show our students that education isn't confined to four walls. His heart raced, strengthened by the eyes of his peers widening with each point he made. Then, like a kaleidoscope, perspectives began to shift. Moments later, Tom offered them tangible evidence of the impact experiential learning could have. He highlighted students' reflections from the previous field trip evidence, revealing a deeper engagement and understanding of geology that they experienced and grasped outside traditional teaching. A few hesitant nods emerged in the crowd. Encouraged, Tom pressed on. Learning should not be a lonely pursuit. Together, we can construct a model that nurtures exploration and curiosity. Isn't that worth risking a little discomfort? As he spoke, he noticed Lydia approaching the group, drawn into the magnetic pull of his conviction. Her presence illuminated the path. They both sought a bridge between their ambitions in and out of the classroom. Tom is right, Lydia chimed in, her voice clear and confident. Our connections with each other translate directly into our connections with students. They've shown us that when we engage with them outside conventional norms, we ignite a real passion for learning. Why not try engaging with it ourselves? Tom exchanged a quick glance with Lydia, a silent acknowledgement of their shared commitment. The flicker of possibility danced in his heart as he witnessed transformation inching forward within the faculty. In time, Miss Carteret's disappointment appeared to falter. Her frown softened as she contemplated the merit of his words. Perhaps we've become too fixated on maintaining the familiar, she admitted cautiously, and overlooked the value of a fresher approach, an approach that could empower students to think critically. Tom's pulse quickened at the sight of the collective movement toward acceptance. This was the nexus of change he had long yearned for, not just for himself, but for every student eager to explore the world beyond their desks. As the trio of challenges morphed into invigorating group discussions, Tom guided them with alterative approaches that sparked questions and inventive solutions. The camaraderie among his colleagues, previously cloistered within the confines of skepticism, began to blossom into a community aligned around redefining the educational experience. Following the day, momentum accelerated. Tom and his colleagues collaborated to develop a series of integrated field trips, workshops, and experiential lessons. The process itself birthed knowledge, ideas, and a sense of purpose that wrapped around the faculty like a warm embrace. In the weeks that followed, as he reviewed newly inspired curriculum plans over coffee with Lydia, the atmosphere felt electric, a shared drive harnessed within their team, unearthing a purpose that transcended merely passing grades. Tom, she shared one day, as sunlight streamed through the cafe window, you've not only changed the narrative for your classroom, but for the entire faculty. A swell of pride bloomed in Tom, no longer a ghost drifting through the corridors of indifference. He had become a formidable presence in his school, unearthing potential where shadows once lingered. Thus, the tests of resilience transformed into opportunities for growth, each challenge reinforcing Tom's conviction that education must evolve. His students were no longer passive observers. They were explorers in an evolving world, rallying behind a vision that was bold and bright. Ultimately, Tom stood tall, grounded in his identity and vision for the future. He had truly claimed his place as an advocate for authentic education, inspiring both students and colleagues to rise, explore, and take ownership of their learning journey. Now, Tom was ready to move beyond the confines of his classroom, and the names of all students who generated dynamic change continued to echo in his heart, marking a triumphant chapter in his professional journey, a narrative enriched by courage, engagement, and unwavering passion. To discover stories that ignite growth and transformation, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for content that inspires change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and unlock more powerful insights. Comment your reactions and theories about this remarkable ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this journey with at least 5 friends who need to see the light of personal overcoming. Your voice matters.